There'll never be enough paper to print the money, nor enough gold in Fort Knox for me to have to keep from doing what I did. I'm proud to be an American. And I'm even prouder that I've earned the privilege to wear the Green Beret.
From the jungles of Vietnam to the mountains of Afghanistan, meet the warriors who turned the tides of battle and etched their names into history.
We got into this battle in Black Hawk Down. Getting guys killed right next to me, I knew, as well as everybody around me, okay, this is crazy.
There's an insanity that goes with thirst. I was so thirsty that I was willing to kill anything to get water.
If you hold on long enough, you're going to find out that there are amazing possibilities that exist for your future.
Imagine being engulfed in flames, your life changed in an instant, yet finding the strength to inspire others. Or running through a storm of bullets to save your brothers in arms, armed with nothing but sheer willpower. These are not scenes from Hollywood. They're the real-life stories of soldiers who stared death in the face and said, not today. Surviving the jungle is one thing, but surviving an active war zone armed with only a knife is a whole other battle. That's what the real-life Rambo, Roy Benavidez, did during the Vietnam War, saving 8 men while retrieving classified documents, all while being shot at. How would it feel to be stranded in a hostile city with no way out? Both helicopters sent to rescue you are down, and you're surrounded by thousands of armed militants. That's the nightmare Major Jeff Struecker and his team faced during the Battle of Mogadishu. Or imagine being the lone survivor of your team, crawling for miles through unforgiving terrain, every breath a fight for survival. Marcus Luttrell lived that reality in the mountains of Afghanistan. Believe it or not, all these stories are true. These brave American soldiers endured hellish experiences and made it out alive thanks to their grit, determination, and unwavering brotherhood. Today we'll dive into their incredible survival stories to understand the extraordinary lengths the human spirit can reach. From medals of honor to Purple Hearts, these soldiers have shown us what true heroism looks like and just how terrifying war can be. Why was Roy Benavidez considered the man with 3 lives? How did a harrowing mile-long run through open gunfire inspire an annual race? And did Marcus Luttrell really crawl for miles through the Afghan wilderness? We'll find out the true stories behind these survivors and the sacrifices they made for their country. But before we embark on this journey of courage and resilience, make sure to subscribe so you won't miss any tales of heroism.
I don't care how hard things get in my life, I will fight to the very end.
Rick Yarosh grew up in the tight-knit community of Windsor, New York, a small town where everyone knew each other's names. Raised by hardworking parents, he developed a strong sense of duty and compassion from an early age. Inspired by a desire to serve his country after the events of September 11th, he joined the Army National Guard in 2004, eager to make a difference. In September 2006, while on patrol in Abu Ghraib, Iraq, Rick's life took a dramatic turn. His tank was hit by an improvised explosive device.
I went through the bottom up into the turret where I was sitting, and it hit our fuel tank.
The blast instantly engulfed him in flames.
As soon as we were doused, we were also on fire. And I couldn't see because my face was covered in flames, and that was also covering my eyes.
Acting on instinct, he leaped from the vehicle, rolling on the ground to extinguish the fire.
I did what we were taught to do, stop, drop, and roll. And I rolled and I fell into a canal, and the canal had just enough water in it, and put the fire out.
Despite excruciating pain and the loss of his ears, nose, and several fingers, Rick's first concern was for his fellow soldiers. His resilience didn't end on the battlefield. Enduring over 100 surgeries, he transformed his tragedy into a message of hope, becoming a motivational speaker who inspires others to overcome their obstacles.
The adversity we deal with in life is what shapes us. I wouldn't change the adversity that I've had because I wouldn't be who I am now.
What can we learn from Rick's ordeal? The power of a positive mindset. In the face of unimaginable adversity, he chose gratitude over bitterness.
Why not concentrate on the important thing in life? The fact that I get to wake up every morning and make choices.
His story teaches us that survival isn't just about escaping death. It's about finding a reason to live.
You have never lived till you almost died. And it is us veterans, especially the wounded, that pray for peace most of all.
Roy Benavidez was born into a humble Texas family in 1935. Orphaned at a young age, he dropped out of school to help support his family, but destiny had bigger plans. He joined the Army and became part of the elite Special Forces. In 1965, during his first tour in Vietnam, Roy stepped on a landmine. Doctors said he would never walk again. But Roy wasn't one to accept defeat. At night, he began a secret regimen. He would crawl using his elbows and chin, pushing through excruciating pain to wiggle his toes, then his feet, until he could stand again. After a year of this relentless self-therapy, he walked out of the hospital, determined to return to combat. Back in Vietnam in 1968, Roy received a distress call. A 12-man Special Forces team was pinned down by a battalion of North Vietnamese soldiers. These were his close friends, and trying to rescue them would likely be a suicide mission. But without hesitation, he grabbed his medical bag and knife and jumped onto the next helicopter.
Went over to my helicopter, got on the helicopter, and he said, "You can't go in there, you can't go in. It's too hot." Little did I know that I was going to spend 6 hours in hell.
As he landed in the hot zone, he was immediately under heavy fire. Over the next 6 hours, Roy performed acts of heroism that defy belief. He carried wounded soldiers to safety, retrieved classified documents, and coordinated air support, all while being shot, stabbed with a bayonet, and struck by grenade shrapnel. At one point, he was declared dead and placed in a body bag until he spat in a medic's face to prove he was alive.
I was hitting him out with the butt of the weapon. My jaws were locked. After my last return back to the helicopter, when I was boarded on, I was holding my intestines in my hand.
By the end of the ordeal, Roy had sustained 37 separate bullet, shrapnel, and bayonet wounds. Medical personnel were astonished he was still breathing. How did he survive? Adrenaline and an unbreakable will. His body's fight-or-flight response was in overdrive, pumping him with the necessary hormones to keep going despite the injuries. Adrenaline is our body's natural response to life-threatening situations. It's a hormone that can turn ordinary people into superheroes, if only for a fleeting moment. This biochemical cocktail triggers the fight-or-flight response, dilating air passages, increasing blood flow to muscles, and sharpening mental focus. In Roy's case, when he leapt from that helicopter into a hail of bullets, his body was flooded with it. This surge didn't just numb his pain. It sharpened his senses, heightened his reflexes, and pushed his physical limits beyond what seemed humanly possible. It was as if time slowed down. Every second stretched, every decision crystallized. His singular focus? Get his men out alive.
My buddy was shot through the eye, the back, and legs. Our mission was completed, but I didn't want to leave my buddy behind.
He later said that he felt as if a divine force was guiding him, giving him the strength to keep fighting.
Where there is a brave man, it is said, there is the thickest of the fight.
In 1981, Roy Benavidez received the Medal of Honor from President Ronald Reagan, who said if the story of his heroism were a movie script, you wouldn't believe it.
Where did we find such men? We find them where we've always found them. In our villages and towns, on our city streets, in our shops, and on our farms.
Roy's story isn't just one of survival. It's a testament to the lengths one will go for their brothers in arms. His actions saved at least 8 men from certain death. It's a legacy that defines courage under fire.
I came through what is to this day the most intense gunfight that I've ever been in.
October 3rd, 1993. What was supposed to be a quick in-and-out mission in Mogadishu, Somalia, turned into one of the most intense urban battles for American troops since Vietnam. Task Force Ranger, composed of U.S. Army Rangers, Delta Force operators, and other special units, was deployed to capture warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid's top lieutenants.
Our primary goal was to capture them and send them to the United Nations for prosecution.
The mission was planned to last no more than an hour, but as the saying goes, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. Minutes into the operation, Somali militants shot down 2 Black Hawk helicopters with rocket-propelled grenades. Suddenly, around 100 American soldiers were stranded in a city teeming with thousands of hostile fighters.
I get through this incredible gunfight, and ultimately guys are killed right around me, and then eventually get dispatched again and again in and out of the city streets.
Major Jeff Struker found himself leading convoys through a labyrinth of narrow streets to reach the crash sites, all while being barraged by gunfire.
I came under gunfire from 100 directions at once. And most of that gunfire was from point blank range.
The soldiers formed defensive perimeters, fighting off waves of attacks. Ammunition ran low, and the situation grew dire.
This is, for me, is the most terrifying moment of my life, without a doubt. All of us are gonna die tonight, is really what we thought.
One of the most harrowing moments was the Mogadishu Mile, where soldiers had to sprint over 5,000 feet to safety because there weren't enough vehicles. Imagine running through streets where every window could hide a gunman, every alley a trap. What kept them going? Training, yes, but also an unbreakable bond. They adapted to the chaos by using inventive tactics, like turning their Humvees into makeshift shields by strategically positioning them to deflect incoming fire, deploying smoke grenades to obscure the enemy's vision, and maneuvering through the maze of unfamiliar streets, relying on instinct and split-second decisions when maps were useless. Despite the constant barrage, they communicated through hand signals and sheer intuition, coordinating their movements to evade ambushes and reach their stranded comrades.
Rangers have sworn their life to one another. No matter what the circumstances, I will never let a fallen comrade fall into the hands of the enemy.
Amidst the chaos, they managed to save over 70 fellow soldiers during the extraction. The battle lasted 18 hours. In the end, 18 American soldiers lost their lives, and dozens were wounded. The incident had profound political repercussions, leading to a reevaluation of U.S. involvement in foreign conflicts. Their story was immortalized in the book Black Hawk Down by Mark Bowden and later adapted into a film. But beyond the Hollywood portrayal lies a raw truth about the chaos of urban warfare and the resilience of those who fight it.
That's when they hit us with the rockets and the mortars, and our world just kind of started blowing up around us.
In June 2005, Navy SEAL Marcus Luttrell and his 3 teammates were dropped into the unforgiving terrain of Afghanistan's Kunar province. Their mission? Operation Red Wings, aimed at disrupting Taliban activity and capturing a high-value target. As they navigated the Rocky Mountains, they encountered an unexpected obstacle: 3 goat herders. Faced with an impossible moral dilemma, they decided to release them.
And bottom line is, we're not murderers.
Hours later, they were surrounded by over 100 Taliban fighters. A brutal firefight ensued.
Imagine playing your favorite sport on the side of a mountain with people shooting at you.
The SEALs were outnumbered and outgunned, yet they fought bravely. One by one, Luttrell's teammates were killed.
I was in hell. I was literally in hell.
Despite being shot, shrapnel embedded in him, and multiple broken bones, Luttrell managed to escape by crawling 7 miles through the mountains. With shattered bones and bullet wounds tearing through his body, Marcus Luttrell dragged himself, inch by agonizing inch, through the unforgiving Afghan wilderness. Each movement was an excruciating battle against pain, dehydration, and the looming threat of enemy fighters hunting him down. Imagine crawling over jagged rocks and thorny terrain, the searing sun beating down while every breath feels like fire, and knowing that stopping means certain death.
I had been crawling for a day and some change. I was like crawling through the mountains, and I had somehow, some way got to the top of this ridgeline. I was so thirsty.
Dehydrated and on the brink of dying, he was found by a local Pashtun village.
4 guys picked me up, carried me down into the village, sat me down outside this house, gave me all the water I could drink.
Honoring their ancient code of hospitality, they took him in, protected him from the Taliban, and ultimately facilitated his rescue by American forces.
I didn't know it was a custom tradition, thousands of years old, that if you wander into that village and you ask for help, they'll sacrifice the entire village to keep you alive just because they said they would. It's an honor code.
Luttrell's survival was not just a physical feat, but a testament to mental endurance. He endured excruciating thirst, even resorting to drinking his own blood when no water was available. His story highlights survival techniques like evasion, using the terrain to his advantage, and the crucial role of local alliances. Luttrell chronicled the ordeal in his book Lone Survivor, which was later adapted into a film. What threads tie these incredible stories together? Bravery in the face of insurmountable odds. Brotherhood that turns ordinary men into heroes. Selflessness that drives one to risk everything for others. Rick Yarosh shows us the incredible power of staying positive, even while dealing with unimaginable hardship. Roy Benavidez demonstrates just how far someone will go to save their fellow soldiers. The heroes of Black Hawk Down embody resilience amid absolute chaos. And Marcus Luttrell's story highlights the unbreakable human will to survive against all odds. These narratives are more than war stories. They're human stories that remind us of the extraordinary capacities within all of us. But military history is filled with tales that defy belief. Join us next time as we plunge into the grisly nightmare of one of World War II's darkest secrets, the Battle of Ramree Island. It's where soldiers faced not just enemy fire, but the jaws of nature's most fearsome predators. We'll see you next time on How to Survive.